Little tiny pieces. There won't even be a scar.
I think I found the problem. You're the doctor. Everyone, lights out. Quiet.
Welcome, Wayward Movie Watchers, to a very special spooky episode
Media Morgue Spooktacular!
I am Joe Grizzly, and I'm joined by my fellow surgeons of spooky cinema.
I am Dr. Sam Loomis.
I'm Jamie Lee Curtis's pool boy. I don't want to actually explain that joke, guys. Shit, let's not go into it.
I'm Nick Castle.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good to have you.
Who's that?
Yeah, we've been planning this for a little bit. First of all, we're all together in person for this episode. Zach is with us here physically in the flesh.
In the actual room.
Good to see you. Yeah, in the room.
Good to see you guys.
And yeah, we decided that maybe to cap off October, we'd do something a little signature. We're doing a deep dive into the Halloween franchise, as started by John Carpenter in 1978, but has been continued and bastardized, maybe? Who knows? By David Gordon Green and Robert Zombie. But before we get to those reviews, we have a game, not news today. We have some festivities that Wes has concocted something for us.
Okay, so this is the horror movie draft. The horror movie draft is just like a regular draft. I don't watch sports, so I don't actually know how a regular draft works.
Yeah, so I can't tell you.
Essentially, what we're doing is we're each going to go around and pick one horror movie from every decade since the 1970s. We cannot double up. We can't both pick the same horror movie, so if one of our horror movies gets taken off the board, then the other person has to move to their second draft pick.
If they have one.
If they have one. Buckle up, Zach.
Yeah, this
and we're going to go around, and then at the end of every decade, when we've all picked our four for that decade, we'll explain why. Maybe we'll do a little haggling as to which one is the best. And then at the end, we'll kind of recite our six draft picks, and then you, the listeners, can vote on who has the best six.
Yeah. We'll call it Midnight at the Morgue, a little programming we'll do for you. I'm going to let y'all know right now my list is...
It'd be really funny if Zach goes.
There's no consistency.
It can be like this, so Zach goes last.
So you have time to do it.
I'm just on Google, just...
Great.
So
go first.
get us
with
started.
1970s. We're starting with the
1970s, yes.
Great.
My favorite decade, actually.
It is the one I have the most options for.
So my first pick, I shifted this around a few times, but I think I'm going with The Exorcist.
That's
a great pick. It's a great pick.
I'm two.
Yeah.
I feel like I had some easy choices I would make here. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with Halloween and Texas Chainsaw for the 70s. I mean, that
Big
truly is the big decade. I mean, Rosemary's Baby and Jaws and Suspiria and all that stuff. But I'm gonna go with a more obscure gem. It's not totally obscure. People know this movie. It's got kind of a life in revival houses. They show it every October, but this is Phantasm.
Wow.
1979. Okay. And do we give a little? We're just gonna go.
We will
circle,
at the end,
right?
yeah.
And then we'll talk. Okay, cool.
I'm gonna go with one of my favorite horror movies. I really thought you were gonna do Halloween. I'm gonna go with one of my.
Surprise.
I know. I'm gonna go with one of my favorite horror movies ever. This was I have as well had a hard time picking because 70s is such a rich decade for horror. But I'm just going to go easy and say Carrie, which is one of my favorite movies. I'm sorry, Zach.
That actually was literally...
I'm sorry, Zach. It's literally a top 10.
Well, Zach, you have like an easy...
That's true.
You have,
I have a bunch to choose from.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. I'm ready. Well, I'm just going to go simple and say Alien. That was probably like...
Oh,
cool.
That's a great pick. That's a great pick.
Let's just do that.
Now, what's
Jordan Peele's favorite horror movie, actually.
There you go. See that?
Nice.
What's interesting about this is that both Carrie and Alien were my second and third 70s picks.
I mean, 70s is such a... You could literally pick any one of these movies, and it's like, that's the best.
I mean, my favorite is actually Halloween.
Yeah.
But I think I want to argue something that less people know of, but is totally a classic and like the pantheon of great 70s horror.
Yeah.
So what is this? We're gonna tear each other's throats out?
No, we don't have to. But I think one of the there was a lot to choose from, and I think I settled on The Exorcist because
Mount Rushmores for the respective
in a way, yeah. It's like if we were given a night to kind of show people horror movies that we really think they should see, but or that we really love personally. I think with The Exorcist, even though I've only seen it maybe twice overall, it sticks in your mind, and it's such a like tour de force of performances and effects, and it's nice to have. I think some of the scariest stuff can be like religion based.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've always thought that.
I think like religious zealots are terrifying. Like Outlast, that whole game franchise. Like so,
I agree. My dad showed me The Exorcist when he contests this.
I watched it with my mom and my dad.
So my
I was like 7 or 8.
yeah. See,
okay?
so my dad showed it to me when I was like 12, and he contests now that he showed it to me when I was like 19.
You know
And
what? I think I was too young to
Changing the
get
narrative.
really how shocking it was.
Yeah.
Because when you're a kid, I don't think you think that much of like. Well, it's also that like that was like a pearl clutching, shocking thing to hear a little girl say your mother sucks cocks in hell and that's
Right.
with
That'll
a
do it.
crucifix
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. But now you hear that shit on Xbox Live. So, I mean, it's a little less
Someone's
shocking.
gamer tag is your mother sucks cocks.
Exactly. Your father stacked shelves in Michigan. Very shocking though, definitely. I mean, and that's kind of what this genre is all about.
Why did you pick
In a way.
Phantasm?
So look, let me set the mood here.
oh please.
Wait for it.
Oh.
Damn it! Hold on.
Yeah.
Spooktacular, spooktacular. So Phantasm is this late 70s fable about a young boy who's been abandoned by his parents. It's only him and his brother living in this house, and all the dead bodies in their neighborhood are being reanimated by the graveyard. What do you say? The head.
What Tombstone?
No, the guy who's like in charge of the
the
grave place.
Gravekeeper.
The Crypt Keeper is the old lady from.
Anyways,
Ed Gein.
this guy is called the Tall Man, and he's an alien from a red planet where he needs to reanimate dead bodies from other planets and bring them back to his home. This gets expanded upon like later, but really this is a movie about. I'm not going to give away the ending. It has a banger of an ending, though, and it's very, very inventive. Thick 70s atmosphere, as you can hear. The music is fucking banging.
This is like disco music right
Oh,
here.
yeah. The music is banging. This is one of my favorite original horror movie scores ever. So
Horror movies need a good
That's my
score.
pick.
They need a good
absolutely
score.
do. That's
whole thing.
half of it.
That's half of it.
Half of it is the music. I mean, we're talking about John Carpenter.
Of course.
You know,
Who makes his
who
own
did not
score.
do Phantasm. This is a Don Coscarelli film, but John Carpenter is basically a masterclass on how important music is in your horror
We'll
movies.
Yeah.
certainly be talking a lot about him today.
Um,
I wanted to talk about Carrie, guys.
Oh,
You
Talk
want
about
to
Carrie.
have your
Carrie is amazing, guys.
It's so good.
It's really good.
It's really
It's one of those weird sliding doors moments because a lot of people who auditioned for Carrie also auditioned for Star Wars because it was in
Yeah.
the same audition hall.
Interesting.
So PJ Souls got the job in Halloween. Was Carrie?
It's-
you know
it's-
she's the totally girl. Totally.
Oh, yeah,
PJ
yeah,
Souls.
yeah.
She was discovered in Carrie.
I don't know. I think it's my favorite De Palma movie. It's one of my favorite horror
For sure,
movies. It's I'm gonna say that a lot. It's one of my favorite horror movies. Because I've tried to pick my favorites. But I don't know. It's I really like teen movies. I really like
I agree.
weird coming of age movies, and this is
Yes.
the weirdest. And no one can do Carrie again. They've tried like 4 times.
In
Can't do
movies
it
where
again.
all the
Right.
bullies get massacred.
yeah,
It's always
and
fun.
there have been like Carrie offspring that,
Yeah.
that don't capture the same rawness.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk a little bit more about?
I mean,
Alien?
Aliens just.
What is there to say about Alien?
What else is there to say about Alien? It's great. It's claustrophobic. There's a lot of paranoia. The chest burster scene. It's
Oh my
it's
God.
iconic.
Deeply
You
upsetting.
know what I mean? The worst thing I've ever seen in the fact that the actors really just like had no idea.
Yeah.
Like what was happening.
I love those reactions.
Yeah, they're so raw. They're so
The girl
real.
who plays Lambert like fell off of the set and they
Yeah.
kept it in the movie.
Yeah.
She like falls out of frame.
Yeah.
Which came out
I think-
first? Was it Alien or Halloween comes out before Alien, right? Because
78,
and
79.
Alien is 79.
because I believe both of their pitches was like, which we didn't talk about Jaws, but both of them were like this creature is
Yeah.
like the shark from Jaws, and that you
In a
cannot stop
different
it.
environment.
It's
Yeah.
funny.
great.
Alien seems like something that like if you didn't know better would have come out in like 89 instead
Yeah.
of 79 because the immediate Halloween copycats were like Friday the 13th,
Right.
and
Yeah.
My Bloody Valentine, New Year's Evil, all these holiday-based slasher movies. And then there's Alien, which seems like it could have been a Halloween descendant with more time in the oven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just came out a year later, so
That's-
very
yeah.
ahead of its time.
Zach, to your point, this is the last thing I'll say about Alien. I think I've told each of you about this independently, but for my art of film class when I was a freshman, we had to write a final like analysis paper, and I chose to write mine on Alien, specifically how sex and gender are used and twisted in that movie, and how like it's such a brilliant way to introduce the xenomorph by having it birthed out of the wrong sex. You know, it inserts itself into a male and then springs forth from that. So immediately, you know, like, oh, this thing is not human. You know, it's not natural.
Interspecies body horror.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. So I guess we'll use that. We'll hop on over to the 80s. I'll go first. Listen, I have a safety pick, but you all know what my number one is. It's John Carpenter's The Thing.
We're gonna take it from you.
I thank you very much. I'll explain more after.
Great. So listen, I chose tons of backups because I never know. I mean, depending on my
80s is a
mood,
rich genre too.
Depending on my mood, I could have gone with Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the 70s. I'm surprised I didn't. I could have gone with Black Christmas. But I chose something that was out there, and I did the same for the 80s. But I think for the 80s, I'm gonna have to go with my true favorite, which is Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead.
I knew it.
From 1980, the actual, you know, the cusp. It has that carryover 70s aesthetic. I have a whole tangent on Evil Dead that I could get into. But
We're gonna come back to it. I mean, I just gotta pick. This I know I said Carrie's one of my favorite horror movies. This is genuinely
That's actually
the one I'm about to pick is genuinely like a top 5 movie period for me. It's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
I almost went with Nightmare 3, which I think might be a better movie.
Nightmare 3 is really good.
Nightmare 3 is a great movie. I think it is a better movie technically. Nightmare on Elm Street is just a deeply upsetting movie about a child molester who comes back from the dead. And it really follows that to its logical extreme.
To haunt the minds of the victims.
Yeah.
Their descendants.
Their descendants.
So I will take Cujo.
That's
okay,
a good
cool.
one.
Yeah,
Zach with
I
the
mean,
Ali.
Cujo's cool.
Listen, after this, my choices are going to start getting dicey. But Cujo's just great. I love dogs, so seeing a dog that was just a fucking nightmare was really scary.
My mom always said that was like the scariest movie she ever saw. She saw it when she was younger, and then one year, like around Halloween time, we watched it with her, and she was like, "This is just like corny. This is just cheesy."
I haven't seen it, but my similarly, my dad has like he's always Cujo was terrifying. But yeah, let's open it up.
Well, you can start on the thing.
Yeah, man. You know, like Wes said about Nightmare on Elm Street, it is pretty much my favorite horror movie, but it's also one of my favorite films. I think that there's so much in it that can be applied to the way that you write in any genre. The way that Carpenter writes for his ensemble cast, the way that the ensemble cast work together, and play off of each other.
For those bottle horror, body horror movies.
Isolation
isolated, and there's an unseen threat.
Right, which is a thing that'll maybe come up in some of my later choices, which also start to get a little dicey, Zach. But
and it's kind of allegorical for McCarthyism.
Exactly, I was going to say that's
definitely a product of the Red Scare. I think Carpenter's very aware of that.
Yeah, it's so entrenched, and he made a lot of movies about that. They Live, of course, is related.
So quotable.
Yeah,
oh my god.
Yeah, it's just
the most
like
quotable fucking movie ever.
I'll probably watch it tomorrow. Just because.
Be fucking kidding. I love The Thing.
That thing didn't want to be a dog. That thing wanted to be us. Yes.
I watched The Thing last year after Justin telling me for a while that I should watch The Thing. And I was like, I'm sure it's not. And it's deeply upsetting. It's a deeply upsetting
Some
movie.
of the best practical effects ever.
When he puts the fire on the blood and the guy whose blood it is just starts to vibrate. Oh my god.
And apparently that green shit at the bottom, when the head is like detaching from the body, it's about to grow the spider legs. I think the classic story is that Rob Bottin, the effects guy, young guy, he was like 19 or something doing the effects. He like microwaved a bunch of bubble gum, so it's still like a lot of like homemade stuff. That is kind of heightened by the direction and stuff.
And The Thing is the movie he wanted to make since Halloween. I mean, that he's watching the original Thing on the TV.
30s,
like it's clearly
which pops up in these Halloween movies, like all of them. Not only his, but then
zombies.
They all reference Carpenter using it.
Yeah, it's Inception.
Of course.
Why go on a 20-minute tangent about Evil Dead?
I love like the actual movie itself, and it's atmosphere and how cinematic it is. But the story behind it is like incredible. Sam Raimi being a fry cook and not going to college, and him talking with Bruce Campbell like in the hallways in high school about raising money to make a little horror movie that they could play at the drive-ins and stuff. That's like amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, taking money from private investors and all these kids who didn't know what they were doing making a movie, and you can totally tell, but that's like part of the charm. It actually helps that the production was like so troubled, because it kind of comes through and how the movie looks and the performances and stuff. Like the demons are very demonic because these actors were up for like 48 hours straight in the makeup, like screaming into cameras and shit.
Oh my God.
Bruce Campbell would like pull out chunks of his hair because that terrible sticky fake blood would like get lodged in his hair and shit. There's so many fun stories about the making of that. So I appreciate it as a backyard movie that doubles as an all-time horror classic.
Yeah.
It is so cool to me.
Yeah, well said. And Wes?
I don't know, man. I saw Nightmare at the right age. I saw Nightmare
For
at like
sure.
11 years old. I
I
remember.
think me too.
I think I saw it actually. I think I was on a vacation with my parents, and I didn't want to hang out with anybody because I was moody. And
Yeah.
like, moody preteen. I just stayed in and I watched Nightmare on Elm Street because I wasn't supposed to watch it. And I mean, it's just
That was the appeal of watching old horror movies.
like I think Wes Craven is. We're going to be talking about Carpenter all show,
Right,
but
right,
Wes
right.
Craven's my number one. I think he's so good at making very dark, real world ideas palatable via genre. I think.
I want to bring on The Last House on the Left as
Dude,
soon as I can. That movie's so cool.
such a like verging on an exploitation.
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
I just think Wes Craven.
I think it totally is, but that's like what helps with like the Ron. Like TCM is an exploitation movie, but it's also like an art house horror film. You know. You know what's funny is like these things that you see like in horror film iconography when you actually watch the movies, like the Spiderhead thing is there for all of maybe 10 seconds. But
In
like
context.
for example, Pinhead is all over the poster for Hellraiser's not in the movie very much. But
Wow.
certain things take
Yeah.
on that iconic status. You
That
know?
makes sense, yeah.
But just to wrap up the Nightmare thing, I saw it at the right age. I think it's Wes Craven's. I think you could make a case that a later movie that we're certainly going to talk about is Wes Craven's peak. But I think in terms of just looking at the slasher genre, seeing that it was on its last leg 15 years after Halloween or 10 years after Halloween come out, just completely turns it on its head, makes it deeply disturbing. And just Robert Englund's
They
like
shot it
all
in the
time.
same neighborhood. When you watch
Oh, for
Halloween
real?
and you see those really spooky trees in Haddonfield, that's why they shot on that street. The exact same street is Elm Street.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I didn't know that. I wow, that's really interesting. I think Robert Englund's performance is an all-time horror performance, and I think the moment where he cuts off his fingers and like holds them up and the blood is
This
spurting
is
out.
God.
Oh, deeply disturbing.
I love the rotating set when Tina's getting killed and she's like crawling on the ceiling.
Dude,
and
or when
level
when
over the
Tina is
ceiling.
getting dragged in the body bag down the
yeah.
hallway. It's just like a really weird, fun movie. So
It's great.
that's my pick.
Okay.
What did I
Now
even-
we'll
You said Cujo?
Cujo, yes. I mean, you know, I saw it when I was pretty young, and I just like it was really stressful. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
man.
like this, it's just like the helplessness of this
sure.
mother and son just trapped in this car, and you're like, how bad can this really be? No, it's bad. It's really bad. You know,
It was like a Rottweiler, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
I mean that's one of the ones that'll hurt you. You know, and they're overheating in the car, and it's miserable. A cop comes, and you're like, this cop will save the day. It's a dog. He has a gun. He doesn't. He dies. So it's just it's a nightmare.
There's a similar there's a dog moment in Carpenter's Halloween too, where
Yes,
not
really.
Halloween the second one, but
Right.
Halloween also. You know what I'm saying?
Also.
It-
I
As
would be
well.
confused with
As
Halloween
well.
or Halloween.
Or
Yes.
Halloween. Or Halloween. The third one.
or H2O.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, Cujo definitely similar to like what Dan was just saying. I even though I haven't seen that movie, the image of him like frantically barking on the
Nothing at
cover,
mouth.
locked in the mind.
Let's do
Honestly,
nine.
I
Let's
like
get-
when shit is corny. If something's corny, I might like it more than if it's dead serious.
Sure.
As a general rule of thumb.
Let's move to 90s.
Yeah.
90s.
I had a
90s
spare
is going to be tough.
spare picks for 90s. But I'm gonna play it safe and go with a movie I recently saw for the first time, 1992, Candyman.
Cool.
Good pick. Dan
Yeah, it's
might
my-
pick mine, and I'm going to be very
No, I won't pick yours. I think I'm gonna go with Brain Dead, which in North America is called Dead Alive. My Blu-ray says Dead Alive at least, but this is a 1992 zombie movie directed by Peter Jackson of Lord of the Rings and King Kong fame. It is the goriest movie ever made. Very gory. The final act is just dripping.
I've heard
with
about
guts
this.
and
I have
blood,
heard
and
about
it's
this.
so funny. It's one of the funniest movies you'll ever see in your life.
Wow, you made a real heel turn to Lord of the Rings after that.
Yeah, it's Brain Dead, Dead Alive, as I call it, is a really classic, like top tier zombie movie that I think everybody should see. It's so much fun. It is so funny. Lots of slapstick comedy mixed in with gore. I mean, it's great.
So I was gonna go with what is probably actually. I'm gonna do what you did with the '70s, which is my. It would be Scream. Scream is an amazing movie.
I was waiting for Scream.
I'm gonna swerve to the side. Yeah, I thought one of you guys was gonna say Scream, so we could talk about it. Scream would be my pick. I'm gonna swerve to the left and go with Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Interesting.
Which I just rewatched recently. Has some of the greatest production design. Just a deeply horny film about people being terrified that Dracula is going to fuck your wife. And just some of the best atmosphere I've ever seen. Probably my favorite vampire movie. And maybe a little too long, but the book's too long, so it tracks. Yeah. So
I remember reading Dracula as a kid, and there were like 5-page descriptions of like how many rocks were outside of the castle.
It's because it's like anthropology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Some guy's diary.
I could go with two of the more obvious picks, but I'm going to say The Talented Mr. Ripley. Justin knows. Cool. It's 1999, so it's right on the cusp. But it's not a horror movie, really, by any means. But it is maybe one of the most disturbing movies I've ever watched. Just from the types of things that freak me out. So I'm
It's chilling. It's a thriller for sure.
It
is.
I mean,
you're watching this guy. In fact, a pairing that I think would have been cool had we been doing this show a few years ago is Ingrid Goes West with The Talented.
Oh my God, that's a horror movie.
But yeah, I'll say I'm surprised nobody picked Blair Witch because that was on
that was up there
my
for me
list too. And I mean, the only
if
reason
I was picking the actual best movies of the decade,
that's fair. I was thinking even without thinking about that, I was thinking like. What's endemic of that decade and found footage was really taking off in the 90s.
One of my picks for the 2000s is found footage, so should we move on?
No, has everyone said what they have to say about their movies?
I mean, there's nothing to say about Dracula. It's Dracula. Gary Oldman's great. Keanu
I'll just say
it?
regarding Candyman before we jump to the 2000s because I only have one pick for that too. Yeah, like I said, I saw it recently for the first time in preparation for the reboot, and I was just really taken away with how patient that movie is. It really is. It's a true gothic in the sense that you have this woman trapped in this dude's house. You know, even if she's not physically there, she's there with him mentally. He's growing obsessed with her. He's manipulating her, and I mean. Tony Todd's performance is just world class. He doesn't show up for the first 45 minutes of the movie.
He's an icon of
what
fright.
movie are we talking about?
Candyman.
I really spaced out. Please continue. I'm caught up now.
Justin, I was just listening to a podcast with Elijah Wood and David Lowery this morning, and Elijah Wood was like, the best horror movies are the ones where if you pull the supernatural thing out of it, it still works. It's drama. And if you pull the supernatural element out of Candyman, it's just an obsessed stalker stalking this woman.
And then it's also attempting some racial commentary,
which
for its time, works.
Works and doesn't work, both.
Yeah, but
Tony Todd's great in it.
Absolutely, and they really withhold him, and then he really makes his presence felt. So 2000s, I have one pick. It was very sparse. This is a period where I was growing up in the 2000s, so I wasn't watching stuff that was coming out.
A lot of this stuff was remakes, to be fair.
That's true.
Continuations of older.
I actually had to step outside of America for this one, and
how dare you?
I know, right?
Is it Let the Right One In?
No, it's not. I wish I'd seen that.
Is it The Host?
It is The Host.
Yeah.
you know me quite well. Yes, The Host, directed by Bong Joon-ho.
It was on my list too, is why.
I might go with my foreign pick. No, you know what? This is actually hard. This is difficult. I want to go with my foreign pick.
Go with your foreign pick
because my pick is but I think my actual pick for the 2000s is Trick or Treat. The Michael Dougherty movie from 2007. It actually came out the same year as Wreck, which would have been my other pick. And Saw was also in the cards.
I could have sworn you were going to do Saw.
Saw was in the cards. I mean, look, it's right there. But Trick or Treat is one of the top tier anthology movies I can think of. And I didn't go with my anthology pick for the 80s, which would have been
Creepshow.
But I am going with my anthology pick for 2000s.
Noted.
Trick or Treat's a masterpiece. It's so good.
So I actually had the reverse issue to you, Justin. I have other than The Host, which is on the list, I have about I'm between two. It's the struggle between being interesting and picking one that's your favorite. It's Jennifer's Body, guys.
Of course.
It's Jennifer's Body.
Of course it
I'm
was.
going to be real with you. I was going to pick Trouble Every Day, the Claire Denis movie, the Claire Denis vampire movie, which is
Pretty spooky.
which is spooky and upsetting. The issue is I've seen Jennifer's Body more times than I'm comfortable with.
If I was going with the one I'd seen the most times, it probably would have been Saw. I
just
like to be surprised.
I think Jennifer's Body's great, and everybody knows that. If you listen to the last episode, listen to me crying into the microphone about this movie. Anyway, Trouble Every Day, though, really good movie. Claire Denis is the best. So.
Zachary?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Pan's Labyrinth for this one again.
Oh,
good
pick.
Damn! Zach came in and hustled.
Hey.
Zach was like,
guys.
"Oh, I don't really have any picks for you guys."
No, don't worry about it. All I did was just upset the balance. That's all. I mean, there's Pan's Labyrinth is an amazing movie. It's upsetting. It's really stressful. It's beautiful. I mean, the creature design.
What does he beat that guy to death with in the one thing? He like takes something for it's a little like a nightstick or something.
Yes! Oh my God!
In the
Yeah, he
woods,
just breaks this guy's
beating
whole
his face.
right?
Yeah. I thought it was like a rolled up magazine for some reason, but I think it's like a nightstick.
I think it's I think so.
Damn, we should have went with Hellboy. I should have went with Hellboy. Now I'm thinking,
that would have.
Goddamn.
This is, honestly, if I were, because that's really good.
I mean,
I completely didn't think of Del Toro at all, and he's the horror master.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the scene. I haven't watched that movie as an adult yet. I should rewatch it. But the scene that sticks out is
the hands.
Is the hand guy,
the hands, the eyes.
Valdo.
Horrible.
Guillermo was really he was at his peak in that period, man. Do we have any other points to make about the 2000s flicks, or should we move on to the final decade, the 10s?
Let's do the 2010s.
Okay. Sticking foreign.
Let's see you think your way out of this one, Zach.
I think I'm going foreign too.
I'm sticking foreign. I'm sticking to South Korea. It's Train to Busan.
Of course it was.
God damn.
Of course it was.
God damn it.
Yeah, 2016. That's a good pick. It was between that and another South Korean horror movie, but that second one is I'll tell it later, but it's longer and a bit more depressing, and I don't know. I was thinking about having fun. So
maybe we can do a quick honorable mention. Go around with them.
Okay, so my pick is from Australia. This is the 2014
pick
Grief Allegory. This is The Babadook.
Oh, good.
A movie I love. I
Babadook is
wasn't
really
expecting to love this movie as much as I did. I saw it a few years ago, and
Really strong.
I don't know. I was in this era of like just being kind of non-satisfied with like late horror movies, but like I watched this the same night as It Follows, and It Follows had so much hype, and I thought that movie was bad, and then I watched this, and I was like pleasantly surprised by how amazing it was. So
Yeah, great.
I mean, this was a great surprise when I saw it.
Well, fuck. My pick is It
It Follows.
I don't know. I think it's the only post Halloween movie to come out that actually is doing what Carpenter is doing in that movie. It really is a spiritual sequel to the original Halloween. I don't know. I don't know if anyone's ever been afraid that you have an STD, but it really makes that fear real for you.
I do think that it is. Well, you know what? Let me hold off. Zach, you go ahead.
Jesus. First of all, Wes, I thought you were gonna pick Sinister, but
I was very close.
Yeah.
It'll be an honorable mention.
I think I'll go with it's between two, but I'll choose, and this is not going to make people happy, but it's It 2017.
No, that's a great one.
It was the first one I saw in theaters. I think. Am I
A
okay?
horror movie?
Do I need to?
Hold this
down for you a bit so that you're.
Because I'm short. No, it's because I was shorter than what you expected.
Keep going. Keep
We're gonna continue. So I mean, it was the first horror movie I think I saw in theaters. Embarrassing, but I love the experience. I mean, it's just wrought with jump scares that are so cheap.
There are some effective ones.
There are some effective ones. The first scene alone is enough to just like put it up there for me. With Georgie, just like an incredibly effective scene that is really never utilized again. But love it still.
Yeah, to your point, like the rest of the movie, it's Bill is it Bill Skarsgård?
Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah, just being like CG monster face. But in that first one, he gets to like perform and just be scary with makeup.
Yeah.
I will say the jump scare where they're looking at the photo reel in the garage and he pops out of the.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
didn't-
good.
Yeah,
I
that
think
was
Bill,
rough.
Bill Skarsgård's so good in that movie, man. I
He
feel
is.
like he's
great.
there's clips of him screen testing, and he doesn't have any makeup on his face, and he's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's very upsetting.
Yeah.
Apparently that Bill Hader in the second one didn't know that his eyes could naturally like go out. In the
Oh,
opposite.
yeah.
He thought that was CGI, and then like he did it. That's spooked him.
That's fucked
For
up.
me, that movie really hinges on the scene with Georgie at the storm drain.
Yeah.
I think without that scene, I could do without that movie. But that scene is so
Is
well
alone,
done
yeah.
that like it's worth like
Exa-
watching the
right.
rest of it.
I also think
Exactly.
that movie does a good job of. I mean, most horror movies are about grief. We're about to talk about
Kind of
4 horror movies about grief, or 3. But I think this one does a really good job of putting it through the lens of a kid. You know what I mean? Like he's clearly.
Like my
Bill is
pick
clearly
for the
not good.
70s, Phantasm,
Yeah.
is all about a child grieving.
Bill is not okay in
Yeah.
it, and the movie does a great job of that.
Really
Yeah.
well done. These kids are amazing.
I think just to talk a bit more about Train to Busan,
Are you talking about the American remake that's coming out?
dude, I'll throw this microphone at your forehead. No, but
Train to Hollywood or something. Train to Chicago.
Oh, it's going to be Train to Chicago.
yeah, just Train to Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy probably. But anyway, Train to Busan, I watched for the first time a few years ago and was really taken. Gong Woo is playing the lead protagonist in that, and it's just again like I think maybe by talking and through my picks you can see some of my sensibilities. Similar to The Thing, it's a bunch of people in one place that they can't leave.
Yeah,
And
With a force.
right, and the thing about the train, right, is that it adds a sense of momentum, even though like everyone is static.
What else was in the cards for you? Because I thought that you were gonna go with like I Saw the Devil or something.
I was thinking about. I had The Wailing was
Okay, cool.
my other pick from
guess.
20
Cool movie.
A film I've seen.
from 2016, which it's about 2.5 hours long.
Right.
It's long for a horror movie. I don't typically think horror movies need to be that thick, but it really.
Lots of it is pretty silly.
Yeah. But I remember just being kind of like drawn in by it. But yeah, I Saw the Devil was an interesting pick. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I almost picked was like psychological thrillers.
Korean. Oh, okay.
And that. But like I almost picked Silence of the Lambs for the
Oh,
for the
yeah.
I
90s.
could have
But
gone with that too.
That's a horror.
yeah.
Yeah, of course. It
I mean,
is. No,
Buffalo
it
Bill's pretty
definitely
spooky.
is.
Yeah.
When she's trapped in this compound.
Yeah.
and he's
Nightmare.
reaching
I
out
mean,
to her.
it's weird. Some people have rules about horror movies that they have to be supernatural. Like
No,
I've heard
that's
that
stupid.
before.
That's dumb.
I feel like I don't know. Whatever.
That's
We'll
wrong.
talk about it all throughout this
Yeah.
this thing.
We will. This was fun, Wes. I'm glad that you came up with this concept. Do you have any
think I win.
notes about?
about It Follows.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's really atmospheric. I think it's upsetting.
Atmosphere is
It's why I think it is actually very similar to Halloween is because there's actually it's 90% craft. It's like
Right.
90% where he puts the camera, how the camera moves. Like the characters are like well acted, but are hollow and they're meant for the audience to place themselves
Right,
into.
Into.
Everyone.
I don't know. I don't know if anyone has any quick honorable mentions from a decade that they really wanted to say
Well,
but didn't.
I just want to say that for me, the Babadook was kind of that marriage of the craft. Like you identified, they're using German expressionism and a lot of like modern techniques and kind of marrying them, and at the same time, the actual allegorical story for grief and compartmentalizing grief was
Yes.
prescient for me, especially at that time. I'd just gone through like a family tragedy, so that movie really spoke to me, and it was a nice marriage of the story really speaking to me and the craft being so.
The craft is great.
It's a
on
solid,
Jennifer Kent's,
solid horror movie.
part.
Yeah.
The Nightingale is also a terror. I know we discussed putting that on one of our lists. It's a truly terrifying film.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
What else was in the cards for us for those other decades?
I had House for the 70s
I
and Ganja
wanted
and
to
Hess.
put. I thought you were gonna go with House. I almost had it.
I was
in my
very
picks.
close. My favorite thing about
Houseu. that is.
Houseu. My favorite thing about Houseu is that it's apparently an allegory for the atomic bomb and about how the director's friends died, which is also Battle Royale. But it's just a weird, fun creep show movie.
If we had gone 60s, I might have been stretched a little thin, but it might have come down between Rosemary's
Looking
Baby
Dead.
and Jigoku.
Oh, well,
Oh, interesting.
Rosemary's Baby is the 70s.
No, it was.
No, isn't
72.
it 69?
I
Hold
thought
on.
it was late 60s.
Rosemary.
When I looked it up, because I might have put it in the 70s.
1968.
68.
You're right. Oh my God.
I would've gone
completely
with,
wrong. I
I would-
thought it was the 70s all this time.
I would have gone with Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
I'm sad I didn't get any George Romero.
Psycho, Eyes Without a Face.
Yeah.
Psycho's good. Yeah, Jigoku I saw in college for the first time, and it's not a movie that I like love, but I think like it's when it kicks off in those last like 20 minutes, you know, it's just such an interesting movie to
I
watch.
watched Onibaba the other night. That may have been my 60s pick. It's these two sexually frustrated women in the middle of a samurai war. Who are kind of living in a swamp, and that's the setup.
That's the vibe I want.
But it's a cool.
Did you have
Zach, do you have any
mentions?
honorable mentions for anything?
Oh, here we are. Oh, this doesn't really count, but I think this it's literally just like the one of the trilogy of terror short films. It's with Karen Black. It's just the doll. I just think that's
With the
that's
spear, right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
doll
Yeah,
spear.
that's
Trilogy of Terror. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just a great, like, she's scary as shit. And she actually did a movie called Burnt Offerings that I want to see him possibly bring on the show. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the 70s was the hardest one for me.
70s is tough.
Suspiria, Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ganja and Hess is a great
Halloween.
one. It was a tough pick. 70s
I was
is
very
great.
close to choosing Reanimator for the 80s.
I'm surprised
I
no one
love
picked
Reanimator.
I'm surprised no one picked Reanimator, and I was surprised no one.
We
picked
sampled
Shining.
a piece of Reanimator for
The Shining was
for our theme.
yeah. The Reanimator is the first clip that y'all hear in our opening theme.
The Fly. I thought someone was gonna pick.
Yeah.
Again, like so many picks that we're saying now that seem.
I mean,
Obvious.
it's we'll talk about it throughout the show, but some movies are horror, but feel like they're encroaching on other genres. So it's actually when you think about horror, you're not necessarily thinking about that movie,
Right.
So
Interesting. No one said Halloween, and we're
Well,
that's
we're
what
about
I'm
to be
saying.
talking
Well,
about
That's
it.
what I'm
Okay.
saying is because anyone who knows me knows that that's probably my favorite movie.
Yeah.
I'm just trying
Right.
to choose stuff that.
now you want to
that-
switch it.
Trying to shake the table a bit.
Yeah.
So
Speaking
so
of Halloween,
we're gonna move into our second segment now, and start talking about all these many Halloweens. Stay tuned.
the Media Morgue Spooktacular.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Nice try.
No conscience, no remorse, of even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, right or wrong, good or evil. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I knew that what was hiding behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
He's a great doctor.
Isn't he?
He's a great doctor.
Nicely
It's
done,
nice.
Dan.
Well
One
done,
of the great horror monologues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the
It
cop
really
is
is.
just like,
What do we do?
What do you mean? What do you mean he's evil?
Yeah, so we're not necessarily reviewing John Carpenter's Halloween on this
No
episode.
point. What is there to say?
Yeah, we just
It's
all
the template.
right.
It's a
We all
perfect movie.
rewatched it to talk about Gordon Green's
Or watched it for the
duology,
first time.
and yes, and later Rob Zombies.
Let's start there.
But I wanted to go with
start
your
with the
your
franchise.
thoughts.
Oh, great! I loved it. I mean, I think it's it's definitely. I mean, you watch it today, and especially if it's the first time, you're like, oh yeah, sure, this is dated, but in a very
Yeah.
charming way.
Is it?
It is, but
It looks like a 70s movie.
sure,
if
but
that's
it's
what you mean.
right, but it's effective. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's dated in a way where I'm like, I don't. It's not like it makes it any less like amazing. You know what I mean? Like there's so many like effective things. I mean, of course, what I when I said when I was watching this was the music. Unfortunately, I was introduced to it through memes,
Right, right.
which is unfortunate because as they play it every single time you see him, so every time he appears, he's like, doo-doo-doo, and I just started
Well, he's a
laughing.
cinematic monster. Every time
Right.
you see him, there's the musical
There's
the
sting,
sting,
which I love
yeah.
it.
shadows and his silhouettes and stuff.
Right,
you know?
which is amazing. But it's an incredibly effective movie. I mean, it's that's like a genuine fear that harkens to, like you're
course.
in a strange place, you're babysitting, and you're the sole caretaker, and suddenly your fucking life is threatened.
I
you know?
heard this may have been Kevin Smith or something. Yeah, I don't remember who said this, but in some documentary they were like, Halloween is interesting because it was one of the first popular ones where the horror came to you. In the past, you had to go to Transylvania,
Right.
even up until like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You had to go and
Yeah.
inspect the
Yes.
graveyard and venture out deep into the back
Yeah.
roads. But in Halloween, I mean,
Yeah.
some maniac is
Home
on
invasion,
the loose, and
yeah.
he's coming to. Yeah, home invasion is exactly
Horrifying.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and it was
Back of the mind fear.
It was so scary because it taps into a fear that a lot of folks have, including, I mean, probably us, is that you're in a house by yourself.
Yeah.
Of course.
You
But
hear
you're
something
not.
upstairs. You go upstairs and there's someone in there. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Well, this made babysitting like
Yeah.
a scary activity. It made it like
Yeah.
the outlet for a horror story to happen. That's really popularized that. One missed call, or I'm sorry, you know
yes.
what? When a stranger calls
When a
is the
Stranger
name of the
Calls,
movie. That
yes.
wouldn't be there without Halloween.
Yeah.
and there's I don't know. I mean, you probably would agree with this, Dan, but
Maybe check to the children.
there's a moment. The way Myers looks in this movie is so distinctly different from the way he looks in any other movie, and it's because they threw out the mask after the production, and they couldn't
Upsetting.
find one that matched exactly.
Well, actually, in Halloween 2, they had one mask that they left over,
Yes.
but Deborah Hill was a chain smoker, and she kept it in a box underneath her bed in her apartment, and that's why in Halloween 2, it's a screen-used mask from the first one, but it looks all deformed and stuff.
Interesting.
It's all, like, naturally rotted and weird.
No, but the way.
Well, the mask here is not like they're trying to recapture iconography.
Yeah.
Like they are in the other movies. This just looks like something he stole from a dollar store.
And it looks ill-fitting in a
very
way.
cheap Halloween mask from a dollar
and
store.
when, not to jump the gun, but when in Kills, when they try to redo it,
Yeah.
when he shows up, he looks like he did in the original
Yeah.
movie, and it looks different. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
different look. Like when he walks into frame, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's Michael from
Yeah.
'78.
And that is
I
Nick
love that.
Castle.
It
in that
is.
flashback.
No. It's a younger guy who plays Michael. in the
It's
flashback.
Nick Castle when he's standing and the camera pans out and he's just standing still in the
Oh,
yard.
interesting.
That's
Oh,
Nick
great.
Castle.
Yeah. For me, this was probably my second time overall watching the movie. I saw it for the first time with Dan at a theater a few years ago. That was a really fun night. But yeah, it's trim. You know, it's a very trim movie. Wes, I saw you describe it as athletic in your letterbox review. I think there's almost no fat to it, and I think that's part of why it has been so extensively mythologized. But I think what's evident in this is that whether or not the way that that 78 ends, spoiler alert, you could take it literally that like Michael Myers survived those gunshots, but I think there's also a reading where it's the terror that he inflicted is what survived.
He's
you know what I
a
mean?
personification of the abstract. So
Exactly.
It's really that evil can't
Was
be
that the
anywhere,
Boogeyman?
or
Yeah, I
there's
think
no
it
way to pin
was.
down.
I
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
it was.
And-
Like,
As a matter of fact, it
and
was.
so I think like with what's also interesting about it is that Michael Myers up to that point is crafted in a way where like he could. In these new movies, he's less of a strict serial killer and more of just a mass murderer.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in
He
that
certainly is
first
a mass
movie,
murderer.
he's a serial killer. He has an MO. He kills. Well, he doesn't actually get to the third person as far as the babysitters, but like he's hunting them.
He kills teenage girls.
Exactly, and you have no, and there's
He kills
definitely
a
a,
mechanic off screen.
and there's
he-
definitely a sexual connotation to
Yeah.
it as well. There's
Sure.
that he kills his sister when
Right.
she's
Stunted.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get into the Carol Clover.
Men, Women, and Chainsaws.
Men, Women, Chainsaws, where male serial killers in movies kill them with a phallic object.
phallic
Yes.
objects, yeah.
But he doesn't kill kids,
Right.
and that carries on into the Gordon Green movie.
and the zombie,
In the Gordon Green one, he
kills
does
that
kill,
one
yeah.
12-year-old.
but not
That
not
kid who wants
not
to dance.
infants,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not
Oh, yeah.
infants.
No, like
Thank
he
God,
he
yeah.
walks over the kid.
Yeah.
That
really nice
right.
guy.
You know.
Really great.
So what's he gonna get from it?
or the one that runs into him in,
Oh,
in
he
the
just
school.
he
gently
just-
grabs
Well,
him,
he
just like,
he
hey.
he likes he likes to pray. He likes the fight. Like when he's kind of choking Annie in the car at first and just kind of savoring that.
Yeah.
because he's been waiting for it for so long, and then he could. That's
And-
it's
and
more
that- yeah.
sadistic than what we see.
And that's what I
in-
mean.
yeah.
Like when serial killers pop up in real history, there's no
I guess
explanation
he's
for
still
them.
Sadistic, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah.
But there's no explanation for them. You don't know where they came from or why they
Right,
do what
right.
they do
Right.
until after they get apprehended.
Before we
even
move
then.
on, going off because this was always an aspect I really enjoyed about Carpenter's Halloween. You know, he it could be anybody, it could happen anywhere. I mean, Middle America or wherever you may be. You know, these slasher movies were kind of going off of the white picket Americana and,
Yeah.
and the perceived safety that they had, and
Yeah.
kind of invading that with forces beyond our comprehension, I guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
The pitch, and I told you guys about this in our chat, but the pitch from the Super Dark Times guys, who are working on Hellraiser now, but they had pitched a Halloween movie. Their pitch was going back to the mythologized Carpenter stuff, where every year there's an unsolved string of murders in some like collapsed suburb in America, and this time it would be kind of a critique of suburbs and the failed American dream.
I think the first one's even that.
I'd say so too, but this would be like shitty areas, I guess.
Low income areas, yeah.
I guess, but like it would mythologize Michael again to where he's like a creepypasta. Maybe there's only one blurry picture of the mask floating around on the internet. No one knows anything about him, and they compare him to Anton from No Country for Old Men.
Oh, okay.
Where we don't know what he
That
does
isn't
or where
Michael
he comes
Myers.
from.
Yeah. It is
where he
Michael
comes
Myers.
from. We just maybe see footage of him hitchhiking across America to get where he needs to be on Halloween night to do his work.
Oh,
Is it his
interesting.
art? Is it his business? Who knows? But
It is his
it's
art,
that
'cause he is an
force
artist.
of-
Yes.
It's that
He
force of
puts care
nature
and craft
aspect
into it,
that
yeah.
the Carpenter film has, and these other movies kind of miss the mark by just bringing back the one guy and making him,
I mean, we can just rip it right open. I
Godzilla.
think the issue with, and I said this on my Letterboxd review, the issue with Halloween inherently is that the first movie is so slim
Yeah, it's perfect.
and perfect that to make a sequel, you have to add stuff on
Yeah.
and make it a little heavier than it needs to be.
That's why
terms of-
Carpenter himself never felt the need
No.
to really make a sequel to his own
when
movie.
she looks down and his body outline is there and
That's
he's
it.
gone, that's all you need.
That's it. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, there are Halloween sequels I like. We'll talk about some of them
And
today.
I like that you brought up that ending because it's not a setup for a sequel.
Yeah.
It's,
No,
it's
exactly.
evil is everywhere.
It-
Evil is elemental. I mean, they even say that in the movie. They're talking about Costang, and Laurie says Costang believed that evil was like a natural element, like earth, air, fire, and water.
Fate.
Fate, yeah.
No,
But that's tied into evil.
And I
like,
think that because of that, because it is the first one is so tuned into evil can come anywhere. Like you're not safe in the suburbs. It literally will come and kill you, and it cannot be stopped. That when you get into the sequels and the reboots, they have to by necessity add things onto it. So like, is Michael a part of a cult? Is Michael a Laurie's brother? Is Michael
was Michael bullied as a kid?
Yeah,
was his father-in-law mean to him?
and there are attempts that I enjoy as their own thing, but I think nothing can beat the simplicity of a guy
Of
just
course,
came to your
of
town.
course.
Yeah.
He's killing teenagers. We don't know why he does it. We can't stop him. We can't fight him.
Yeah.
And he's gone. You know what I mean? Which is why the opening of Kills is so great, and then the movie proceeds to shit itself.
Severely. Let's. I think it'd be helpful in terms of how we talk about this to kind of the formula of the show is obviously changing a bit for this episode. If you're listening, you probably understand that by now. If this were a regular episode, so to speak, it would just be like Halloween Kills and Rob Zombie's Halloween. Right. But we're also kind of talking about David Gordon Green's Halloween 2018.
You got to get that one out of the way.
Because it's necessary viewing.
It's the opening act.
Well, yeah. So this is Halloween 2018 is a direct sequel to 1978. It's meant to kind of cut out all those other sequels and just be nothing happened. He's been locked
Even
up for 40
Halloween
years.
2, which established that Laurie and Michael are siblings,
Right.
Which
of
Rob
course is
Zombie
what Rob
runs
Zombie
naked
runs
through
with,
the streets with.
Right. which that gets wiped out. It's just Michael, somehow they got hold of him. He's locked up in a mental institution again. Right. And he breaks out, and then he goes after Laurie. Laurie is living as this agoraphobic gun nut in the middle of wherever. In Haddonfield. It's funny that she hasn't in 40 years moved
Days
her
there.
family.
I
somewhere.
think it's because of the preparation, but one of the themes I enjoy about that screenplay is monsters creating other monsters.
True.
And trauma kind of living on in someone's head and
Exactly.
And into your
molding them
children.
into something else.
Exactly. Yeah, becoming
Generational trauma. Yeah.
People are carrying with them. Like that's, I think, the Judy Greer performance. Watching Kills, I think the two
She
movies
looks
together.
anxious and jittery,
But
like
the-
she's had that kind of
The
childhood.
two movies together, I think she's my favorite performance in the movies because she's just carrying so much shit with her.
Yeah.
And then the second movie, she's just
She
like
feels tired.
she's just exhausted. She's
Yeah.
like, oh my god, like I've had the worst 24 hours in 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
I want to open this by saying Kills definitely cheapens this movie.
It does.
And when 2018 came out and there was no news of a sequel, I was like,
Fantastic.
that's all I need.
Yeah.
I just need this one because it kind of has that open-ended ending
Right.
that you can it gives you room to dream
Right.
as David Lynch said.
there's that flash. That freeze frame on Allison's hand.
We don't
with
need
the
to
knife.
have every little bit of closure.
Yeah,
in the world.
I will say it's really good finale. But I kind of
Because
couldn't
it's
help.
like she got him.
Yeah.
She got him, and
right.
that's it.
And that
now we're
feels
done.
cool.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think.
Well, Halloween 20 years later, H20 ended the exact same way. She cuts his head off,
And then
then
he's
in
back.
the next movie,
Oh.
well, then in the next movie,
No,
they
it's
not him.
explain
It's
that
not
it
him.
wasn't Michael, it was another guy. and
because he
Michael Myers.
broke the
Right.
larynx.
Yeah,
and-
yeah,
Put the
yeah,
mask
yeah,
on.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
But-
But I was just gonna say,
Yeah,
when it comes to the ending of Halloween 18,
my
I couldn't
God.
help but making the joke in my head that Michael is like padding the runtime by hiding in Laurie's house from her for like
Right.
10 minutes. She's
That was
searching for
great.
this dude, and
It's
it
it's
is
the
10.
reversal. It's because it's the reversal. Of
I was
what
actually
was-
on the edge of my seat when I saw it in theaters because like that's what I was waiting
But-
for
but
that
just to-
final confrontation.
It's so
Yeah.
silly because it's like I guess we'll just talk about these two movies in tandem.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so silly because the ending of 2018 is a perfect ending for him. He looks up at
Sure,
Laurie.
yeah.
And it's the first time we can see Michael's eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and he's looking up her like you motherfucker.
Yeah.
And the fire's
bitch
around
got
her. And then Kills opens and he's like in the garage.
That
Yeah,
was
he's like
so
hiding.
funny.
He's hiding in one
He's
part
like-
where the fire can't reach.
Yeah.
He's like, I gotcha.
I was like, that's a
Mike,
fix the
fire
purpose.
melts metal. Stupid. What are you talking
And
about?
this is part of
Also, it doesn't explain how he gets out of that pit that the one firefighter fell into. Like, we
'cause
see
the
him-
other guy
well,
reaches
hold
him,
on, we see him grab his hand, but then what? He pulled him down, and the force of
He
pulling down the
probably-
firefighter propelled Michael out of the hole because he can't go up through the stairs. There's that trap.
Yeah.
How do you
He's-
propel
No, he
himself through
probably-
the
Tyler
ceiling?
Mane would have just stood up
Right,
and
yeah,
grabbed
he
his
would
way
have
out.
jumped.
Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, what?
No, I thought you were trying to say something.
Oh, I had a bit, but it was gone.
Do the bit.
The moment has passed.
It's awkward to do a bit when the moment he
Right,
climbed
right,
over.
right.
The guy actually helped him out of the hole. And
Uh-huh.
Just continue with it.
But I was gonna say, I'll open with my issue. My chief issue with Halloween Kills is that it feels like the movie's bad.
It's an
But it's
unnecessary.
terrible.
but it's
fourth
bad
or
because
fifth act.
Exactly. It feels like an act that was cut from Halloween 18.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? And like that movie is I don't know, probably like an hour, 45 minutes,
Yeah.
that first one, or somewhere in that
It's
range.
pretty lean.
Yeah. You could have maybe had some more room if you wanted to do this grand finale at the
Maybe
hospital.
cut out some of that dumb stoner comedy. The two
Yeah.
cops talking about like the
That was
brownie,
dumb.
the brownie that the one made. They do.
Yeah.
That's like what a 4-year-old would eat.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Yeah.
Michael Myers is like on the loose. Why are we spending time
He's
with
behind
these
you.
cops?
Yeah. So I think like the problem, to your point, Wes, is that I don't know. It's like if Michael Myers is supposed to be a metaphor, that's one thing. But if he's actually supernatural, then the movies have to say that he's supernatural. They're
Which they
trying
do,
to
which they
they're
do.
trying to skirt the line
Carpenter's
around it.
Halloween, Tommy Doyle does say you can't
Kill the boogeyman, right.
And the movie itself kind of mythologizes this escaped mental patient as not just that, but actually the boogeyman,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
force of nature.
Which works because we don't know where he
he
comes
toes
from.
the line.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
He toes the line between like because a guy couldn't survive that shit, obviously. So it kind of leaves you with that ambiguity of that wasn't human. Michael
So
was not
okay,
human.
so you would say that Michael Myers is supposed to be a
That it hits a tasteful
post-human-
It hits a tasteful
Post-human's a good way to
ambiguity
say it.
that the sequels kind of write themselves into a corner with. Because
Right.
They try
I would
and
agree with that.
Expand upon that stuff.
and if this
But
is
the elemental force of nature is what works
Right,
for me,
right.
because that's how he was intended. Is evil personified.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if this is going in the direction that they seem to be setting up where Michael can't die as long as Laurie is alive,
Right.
cool. But again, could
Why?
have done that in the end of the first movie.
But also, you said that like one of the best aspects is we don't even know what
the best
Laurie
part,
is to Michael.
The best part of 2018 is that Michael doesn't care about Laurie.
Yeah, they
Right.
Like,
they
there's
retcons the
Yeah.
connection. They
He doesn't-
retcons the connection,
Yeah.
meaning the original movie it was just a random
Yeah.
thing.
which
Right.
is so cool. I mean, I love.
but
I'm
she
the one-
is still the one that got away, I
Yeah,
think
it
is
is.
what.
Right.
But my thing is like I really like the Rob Zombie movie. I'll be alone on that island in a couple minutes. But and I like that movie drives full head into he just wants to find Laurie, that is
Yeah.
his sister.
Yeah.
And reconnect with
and reconnect
his
with
life
her and
before.
reconnect with a portion of his humanity, right?
Right.
A sweet boy.
But if we're going to strip that away, who's this old woman? He looks
Right,
at.
right.
I'm so sorry, Zach. I know Jamie Lee Curtis is something.
I
too.
don't,
But,
we're
but,
not-
but he's like.
She's like, Michael, I've waited 40 years, every minute waiting for this moment.
And
I don't
Michael-
even know who you
You
are.
ain't nothing but a bitch to me, and everyone knows bitches ain't shit to me.
Michael just looks at her and he's like, no. He just keeps moving.
Yeah. Zach, you didn't think you were going to be able to watch Kills, I think, but then you watched it last
did,
night.
I did.
How did you feel about
I
it?
hate it. I think it's bad. I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
pretty bad.
just stupid. Like I think that first, just I mean, there's just so much unnecessary shit. in there,
Absolutely fucking
you know?
unnecessary.
Yeah.
Why was this? It could have easily just been a duology.
Yeah,
just open the third one, or what in my perfect world would be the second one with the time skip and explain he got out, we never found him.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
The only thing is this movie is a framing device for that 1978 flashback, which I love.
Wait,
and I love
Which
the
is great.
flashback.
Wait, Zach, finish what you're gonna say, and then I'll
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's just unnecessary, like, Allison, fucking Cameron, and Lonnie, like, just sending Lonnie alone into that house. I was like, what the shit?
And it's weird because some of those guys are the actual actors, which is disrespectful in my opinion. But Lonnie was not the original; he was just some guy.
You're right. I didn't even remember that kid. Did that happen?
Tommy Doyle.
No, the other kid.
Lonnie is the kid who pushes him over in the schoolyard, bullies
him. That was the thing.
And then Lonnie runs away, and Michael grabs him. You know what I'm talking
And
about?
then he pushes him to the side.
Because he was an
Yeah.
asshole in that 78, and then he was like the victim.
He bullies
And then he's like, I'm so
He's the
sorry for
victim.
bullying Tommy Doyle.
Got it. Okay.
Here's the thing.
I think it's that those other kids are picking on him, and they made him a bully.
Yeah.
Or like a bully makes a bully. You know,
Here's the
I think
thing
it's what I care about.
kills that I think might be a controversial opinion. If you needed to make a trilogy, if that was the Blumhouse contract,
God,
I think they should have just gone back to the 70s and done a movie about the cops trying to catch Michael after the first one, and then it ends.
It would have been a stand-in for Halloween
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I would have just done that. I honestly, because the 70s thing is so good. It's the first time Gordon Green is.
Yeah.
It looks like.
No, it does. Yeah,
It looks like a
they're
Carpenter
using
movie.
the moody blue
It-
nighttime lighting.
And then the little moment with Jim Cummings and the other the cop that shoots Jim Cummings in the neck accidentally was amazing. The fake Loomis is great.
Oh my god,
amazing.
the fake Loomis is like, as soon as I accepted, okay, obviously it's not Donald Pleasance, and I just let myself be swept up in that.
And it
moment.
doesn't look weird.
It almost made me cry.
It's not uncanny.
It's like amazing.
And
Loomis is my favorite character.
And I wish they had just gone full throated into that, because then you can come back on the third one and you see all these characters as teenagers, young adults in the 70s, and then for the third one, Michael's escaped, and now we have this community of people that we know from this interlude that we had. But I guess it wouldn't have sold because Laurie isn't in it. Like Laurie wouldn't be in it,
Right.
but
sitting
She
in the
was
hospital
barely in
all
this
night.
one.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what we're saying.
And kills you, dude.
she's just
monologues.
pontificating.
Did you know that the alternate ending for this was do you remember in the original movie, Zach, when Michael kills Linda and then he brings the phone up to his mouth and kind of listens to Laurie's voice, and she's like, Linda, is this a joke? You know that scene. They were gonna do it where Karen goes to call Laurie. And then Laurie's on the phone with Karen when she's in that room, the Myers house. Michael kills her, and she's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" Michael brings the phone up to mimic that moment.
Yeah.
and
Karen
listens to
being
Laurie's
Judy
voice.
Greer.
Judy Greer,
Yes,
I thought Judy Greer
to listen to Laurie's voice, and it would have ended. With
It would
that
have.
brief-
It would have meant
great.
something.
Right.
That's
I mean,
great.
like
when they just kill
but
off
that
Judy
shot
Greer.
from the trailer of Laurie walking out of the hospital was supposed to be from that ending.
Oh,
She's
right.
like, I'm
Yes.
coming for you.
I was gonna say
She leaves the hospital.
when they killed Judy Greer after her big hero moment of stabbing Michael in the back.
Messy. I don't get the point.
I don't
at
get the
all.
point, especially
I
because
didn't even think it was happening.
they set her up so well in this movie to be possibly the
Right.
protagonist of the third movie, because she.
I think it's gonna be Andy Matichak.
It's gonna be because they're gonna take out Laurie.
Yeah, probably.
But I don't know. I don't know. The ending feels so rushed.
Right.
They just killed Tommy Doyle.
What the?
Just super dead.
I gotta
point?
be honest. Like it is disrespectful to bring back
is.
like the real Lindsay from the first one, the real Sheriff Brackett, Charles Cyphers.
Oh, he's so good.
Marion.
He
yeah,
still
Nurse
got it.
Marion. No, yeah, and to just like.
And the nurse gets fucked up.
She gets
horrible.
destroyed. Just the same.
Bringing
shit
back
happens
this
to
like
her.
70-year-old actress, dragging her out of retirement, resurrecting Charles Cyphers.
I'm sure that.
bringing his body up to the lightning rod and letting the lightning reanimating him so he can be in Halloween Kills, and then just having him die in the crowd. He's like 90 something.
The funniest is when the black couple who get like a good 20 minutes of setup in the beginning of the movie.
Well, I just thought that
and
they
in
were
the
fathers.
last
Yeah.
movie, buddy.
I just thought
in
that
the
they
last
were
movie.
fathers, so that like didn't matter to me. But like
I
the
super don't-
legacy characters,
Dude.
what are you doing?
No, but it's so weird. It's like you could have cut some of these characters out. I mean, they're cannon fodder, so we need a scene of setup, and that's it. They get like a few scenes
Yeah.
just to have for Michael to like push his knife
yeah.
through his eye, and then her to come with a gun, shooting at Michael, and Michael just kicks the door.
Everyone, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Zach said that's the least effort he's ever had to
effort
put
he's
into
ever
a
put
kill.
into
Just
a
kicked the
murder.
door. She did it to herself.
Here's the thing, Dan. A couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about Batman in the group chat, you were saying, "How is no criminal thought to shoot this dude in the mouth?" I'm like, why is everyone who wants to shoot Michael coming right up into his arm's reach to put the barrel of the gun in his face? Just stand back here with the gun and shoot him in the head.
We need a neighborhood full of Loomises.
That's
who
what
have
Loomis.
the six shooter.
Loomis knows what to
In
do.
both of these, in the zombie one,
In
we'll talk about
Zombie,
in a
when
bit,
he's buying that heater, it's like,
Loomis is putting lead in
Doesn't
him.
Loomis have like a Desert Eagle?
yeah,
in the
he's like,
zombie one?
he goes into that red pill shop and
Love
is like,
that stuff.
give me that one right
I like
there.
that scene a lot.
It's
Yeah,
really
he's
good.
like,
with the redneck in the
because
gun shop.
he picks a certain one. He's like, yeah, that's good if you want to piss him off, but you really want to kill this guy. Here's a Magnum.
As far as like the really half-baked fan service in this, I mean the 70s stuff is like diegetic to the movie, so I enjoy it. But
think
like
it's great.
having Charles Cypher say his famous line from the first one, it's Halloween, everyone's entitled to one good scare, and then like getting his throat slashed 2 seconds later, like
immediately.
it feels so empty.
Yeah.
It's such like a signaling movie.
And it feels like Gordon Green has a good Halloween movie in
I
him.
think so, yeah.
And because you're watching the 70s, you're like, this would have been a good movie. Why are you making this movie?
Yeah.
Like I quite honestly don't care about the lynch mob trying to kill that guy. That's not my kind.
Really.
Anthony Michael Hall is so goddamn.
Oh my
annoying.
god, the whole thing with the yeah.
He's
The penguin in the hospital and like they're all chasing. I get that we're reaching for straws here as in terms of like thematicness,
Yeah. No,
but
I
like
don't give a fuck.
the whole like
Mob
mob
mentality.
mentality is bad and like you're gonna get punished for the mob mentality. Dude, that
No.
theme is like not
No.
really. There's no point to have that theme in this.
There's not.
movie.
Let the whole
we're just
town
kind of
rip him apart.
distracting.
Yeah, and it's so that would have been horrific. Like that would have been a real horror. But also. Also, why, guys?
Well,
Guys,
the fact
why?
that we have a shot of like the gore on the ground, like just totally deflating all the levity behind that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Guys, why? I have a very crucial question.
Yes, please.
Why is the boyfriend in this movie?
I hate that kid. I hate that guy.
Why?
Well,
Why?
you know what it is? Because people bitch that he didn't die in the first one. So Gordon Green was like, okay, he has his head put through a banister.
he gets
Brutalized.
brutalized.
But after he's redeemed as a
stabbed.
character.
Redeemed,
He
yeah.
gets his head, and Michael. Guys,
so
that
you
was
can
the best.
feel
guys,
something.
Michael is an artiste.
He is.
He is an artiste. There's several parts of this movie which I've never seen in any Halloween movie, where the camera stays on Michael after he's killed someone, and he's just sticking knives.
That was the best.
exactly.
And the best one is when when Laurie's granddaughter's boyfriend
Yeah.
gets his head pushed through the things.
Yeah.
Michael walks down, looks at the head, and snaps.
Adjust it.
Just make it a whole art installation.
Yeah,
I think
no, the way that he sets up that
He
cop
is
in
pretty
18
sadistic in this
with the jack-o'-lantern.
What the
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah.
guys, if Haddonfield had
Do you remember
an
like
arts
Halloween 4
program,
and 5? He's just like killing him really quick and then like walking
Dude.
away.
Yeah.
This is such.
but
a
here's
far
the
cry
thing,
from that.
Dan. If Haddonfield had a thriving arts program, maybe Michael
Right,
would have been
right.
an artist.
That's
Maybe he
probably-
wouldn't have killed
perhaps.
people. I
Wood
think
cutting.
I think we really need to think about it.
We do. This is why we need to support arts in the inner cities and the suburbs.
More Michaels will come out.
That's the real metaphor for. Yeah, I mean, again, like everything that's going on with Anthony Michael Hall. First of all, his appearance into the movie is so strange
nightmare.
because he
Why,
gets up.
why is the nurse from the original movie hanging out with
With
the
the
two kids that Laurie was babysitting? Why are they really? Are they that united by
found each
trauma
other.
that like these
They don't
disparate
even know.
connections
The nurse wouldn't even
for
know
40 years
that
are
it was
hanging
Michael
out every
Myers.
Halloween?
She also got
Well, she would
even
find it out like on the news, and then I'm guessing she would find out there were two children in the house where the final confrontation takes place. But it's like that's a
She was
disparate
not even a
connection.
victim.
That's very disparate. And then the fact that like Tommy Doyle is still hanging out with his bully from 40 years ago,
No.
like we're really reaching. You
And
guys.
that, by the way, Lonnie just like encountered Michael, who like said hello to him and then walked away. And he's
Yeah,
like,
we'll
"I'm fucked
grab
up."
him.
And then he like walked over him. later
Yeah,
in
it's
the
like
night.
he's fine.
Yeah,
You're fine.
Michael might like Lonnie. Michael's like, hey, this kid
he
again.
lets him go twice actually.
Yeah,
Because in
right,
the original
yeah.
Halloween, he grabs him outside
Lonnie
the
is Anthony
schoolyard.
Michael Hall.
No, that's,
No,
that's,
no, no.
it's
Lonnie is the kid
Lonnie
from
is
the
the kid
original
who's
movie
in
who
the
bullies
a
Tommy
Batman
Doyle.
But
movie.
who's playing
Isn't he
him
in a
as
Batman movie?
What's that?
Is it the
fat
boyfriend's
actor?
father?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
got
yes.
it.
Yeah.
He literally, Michael lets this kid go 2 times. I would be like, Michael may have fucked you guys up.
Yeah.
He's
No,
my
we're
friend.
cool.
I don't know about you guys.
We're cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Kills is like the
just a wet
blatant
fart.
the blatant methods by which it seeks to extend itself and justify its existence
Right.
are really evident, and it just it tires me. Also, this
I get why we retcon like 9 movies, but like at the same time, if you just are going off of Carpenter's Halloween, there's not that much to pull from, like
There really
character wise.
Exactly.
They pulled every character that they could, and then kind of just killed them. So it's like, why did it even matter?
And now you're doing this, forcing this weird romance between Laurie and the cop.
The cop who
Oh,
doesn't
God.
exist in the original that
Right.
they created.
Right.
Yeah,
And
he's
who-
like, I
and
And
have
also
to kill
very
Michael.
clearly dies in 18 because
Yeah.
he gets stabbed in the neck,
the
and then they
throat.
run him over.
Yeah.
They run. You can hear the sound of the car running over his legs.
And you know what? I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care because the sequence with him as a young cop is
It's
so
really- it's
good,
really good. It's
that
really good.
I was like, why isn't he the protagonist of this movie? Why isn't this movie about him?
About him,
Because
Joe.
there's scenes where you're like, oh, he's the protagonist of the movie,
Right.
and then they're like, oh, but we got to get back to
Oh,
this.
yeah, like when he
Great
says,
body.
"I have to be the one to kill Michael Myers."
Yes.
He's gonna die immediately. And
Michael Myers is gonna come into his room and pull the cord.
I just gotta say too, the name Halloween Kills is so fucking tacky.
Yeah.
So
what
is
are
Halloween
we doing?
Ends.
Yeah, Halloween Ends is really bad too. I don't know why they're doing
Do you?
this.
I have a question that might end this segment, guys.
Yes.
Do you think Michael needs an intern because he's an older gentleman? He's really
to
struggling
get him
to
his
do kills.
tapioca pudding.
Yeah, he's struggling. But in the first movie, when she runs off from the cop car, he kind of looks and he's like, oh, never mind. He's a struggling gentleman.
Well, here's
She
one
needs
thing.
to babysit him every day that's not Halloween. Because every day that's not Halloween, he just goes like back into baby mode. Just kind of holding his hand and bringing him onto the plane. Can I get chocolate chip cookies? You can have a fruit cup. Okay, that's not what I wanted.
One thing I'll say
be a nice
about Michael's mobility in this, and then we'll rate this and move on. It seems that, like, obviously we've all grown up on those kind of jokes about how Michael Myers, like, you never see him run, but he always manages to catch up to people. And what's interesting about the first Halloween movie and about 18
Kind of like a
is
ghost.
that it's almost as if Michael is
haunting the
with
town.
it, yeah, right, and within the movie, it's like he's in cahoots with the movie itself.
Yeah.
To
interesting.
always get over
He
on its
spawns-
characters.
He's a,
Next to the
Exactly.
cinematic villain.
He,
If he's not in the frame, then he could be anywhere.
Exactly. He camps by the by the spawn
camping.
point. And then in in Kills, you're just kind of seeing too much of him. I think like you're seeing him like move around a bit too much, and it just and then there are some things that like he couldn't have done that.
And you're also seeing him. The fun of the original and even the zombie movie is that once he kills someone, we cut because it's almost like their tether to real life has been cut.
Because now what?
Yeah.
We do
Seeing
see
him-
him carrying Annie's. That shot, by the way, is maybe the scariest shot in the whole original Halloween when he's with the silhouette of him carrying
with the Frankenstein
Annie's body.
shot.
Yes.
But when you linger on Michael after people have died and seeing him like arrange the bodies,
Just seeing him
walking
in his
around,
little habits.
looking out the window, it's very silly. It becomes very silly very
Exactly.
fast. You're like, oh, this is just a tall child.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll move on to Rob Zombies, but let's go ahead and give Kills specifically our meme ratings.
meme rating.
You go
What are all
first,
looking-
Zach.
Is it me? Jesus God, guys. Let's give it 2 little Tommy Doyle's brains all over the ground. Anthony Michael Hall, I don't want to see you act again. Thank you.
Out of
You were very positive about Anthony Michael Hall in your Letterboxd review.
That was a joke. That was
Okay.
I have to adjust that clearly because I don't want people to think I liked him.
Wes.
I'm gonna give it 2 Michael Myers art installations out of 5.
Yeah, seems appropriate.
This is gonna be 2 paychecks to 95-year-old actors who you're gonna have on set for 2 days. Out of 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 2 busted Laurie Strode ribs, and internal organs.
Can
out
we
of
just say?
six.
Can we just say?
And
She
then
gets and then
surgeon,
gets
surgeon.
punched, and then she gets punched. She's like, "Fuck, I gotta go back."
Never mind. Yeah.
Go fuck.
Oh boy. Yeah. So those are our thoughts on the Green Halloween. We'll take a brief break and then pick it back up with Rob Zombie's 2007 remake. All right, folks, we're back. Like we said up top, and again several times throughout the recording, we are talking about the 2007 remake of Halloween, directed by Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
This movie takes an alternative approach to some of Michael Myers' history by actually showing how he grew up and his living environment, and then attempting to sort of create a more familial bond between him and Laurie Strode. And what the result is something of a Frankenstein story.
Yeah. It's pretty Frankenstein.
Let's do some initial impressions. Let's start with you, Zach.
Yeah, it was better than I expected, to be honest, going into it. Wes is just shaking his head at me.
You give it a star and a half.
Did I? No, wait, I adjusted that.
My favorite thing about Dan is that you'll start talking about the thing and you'll be like, really? Because on your letterbox.
Yeah. I always remember. I never forget.
No, I adjusted that. I think it was better than I thought it was going to be. I fucking hated that Michael kid. I just wanted to smack him in his
Dig,
full face.
I love him.
he's that kid from Hancock.
Hancock.
That
Yeah,
Will
Justin
Smith
knows his
punches
name.
up in his
Justin,
face.
pronounce the name.
Oh no,
It's Dig.
Dig Fangar. I shouldn't make fun of this name. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's
Gotta
rude.
be some
It's
kind of-
just-
Dig
Let
Fairch.
me just
Dig
say,
Fairch,
yeah, you know what? Wow, that's a
What does
picture.
he look like as an adult?
Who knows?
The same. So, but anyway, I didn't like that kid. But I think the backstory could be condensed. Like, I appreciated seeing him in the hospital because I was interested in seeing like those interactions between him and Loomis in the original, even though it didn't need it.
The
But
asylum stuff is the best.
right, so exactly. So I think it was better than I expected. I like that he's just a giant man, just like bursting through drywall, and it's a horny movie, for sure. But I think it was fun. I think it was harmless, more or less.
Wes, we know you have the most positive opinion probably. Let's go to Dan.
I don't think it's fun at all. One of those things is like growing up, Halloween was my comfort movie, and the Rob Zombie one just didn't have any of what I liked about Halloween. It's a very aggressive, very confrontational movie, and like that used to just really turn me off. But I mean, I for like 10 plus years have just walked around saying how much I hated this movie, and I had no intention on revisiting it because I watched the rest of Rob Zombie's stuff, and like for example 31 and like 3 from Hell are like 2 of the worst movies ever made in my opinion. They're fucking awful. So it just kind of backed up my hypothesis that Zombies Halloween was not worth revisiting, and I just didn't need to pay it the time of day because the sequel's really bad too, so that also just
Reinforced it.
reinforced that in my mind that his remake wasn't worth my time. But as an adult, I think it's his best movie.
Yeah. As an adult.
Well, it's Rob Zombie's best movie. It's the one that has the most
A low bar to
thought,
clear,
I
maybe?
think. Huh?
Is it a low bar to clear for Rob Zombie?
The only other one I really like is Devil's Rejects.
Okay.
Which isn't to say I really like his Halloween, but it's better than it has more thought than I recalled it having. He's at some points he's playing Carpenter to a better degree than David Gordon Green is.
Yeah.
Like when Laurie walks into the house and Annie is bloody on the floor, and we stay on that shot. She exits the frame.
And
Danielle
she's,
Harris
and she's
is
going,
flat,
Laurie. She's like, Laurie.
screaming.
Yeah.
And then we see the doors start to close,
and
and it
Michael
gradually
is right
reveals
there.
that Michael's
That's
behind the
great
door.
stuff.
Yeah,
I love it.
that's like a very
Oh,
Carpenter
I love
thing,
it.
like more so than anything David Gordon Green attempted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the actual filmmaking here is probably better than what David
I agree.
Gordon Green is
agree.
attempting. It's
That's
more
fair.
memorable.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is such a strange, like it is like a Frankenstein story, but it's also a Frankenstein's monster of a movie.
Right.
Because at points when it's just remaking the Carpenter one, it's less interesting.
Yeah.
I think the first like 20 minutes just in the house are kind of unbearable. But,
Ridiculous.
like the asylum stuff, well, not even ridiculous, just like really screaming in your face. And like,
Yeah.
we get it,
No,
the
absurd.
redneck asshole.
Yeah.
We get it.
I mean, within the first 3 minutes, I
Right.
have a list of like all the.
I remember
negative
turning
things.
it on for the first time and like watching it and just being like shocked.
Yeah.
Like that this is what the movie was.
Yeah.
It's all these rednecks fucking sitting around screaming and pouring coffee on one another. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Before we go to US with your opinions
mine.
and the letterbox reviews, I'm sure, I'll just briefly say that I had seen parts of this movie before. I was just coming into middle school when it came out, so I'd seen certain scenes. I also think there was stuff that I was expecting to happen that must have been from an unrated version that I saw a part of.
Yeah. They loved.
No,
those.
I watched the theatrical.
They loved those back in the 2000s.
It was time for
Unrated.
unrated. But This was actually the first cinematic experience I had with Michael Myers as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So because I wasn't
I think
connected
mine
to the
too.
Carpenter
I think mine
version,
too.
I didn't have like a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me watching it this time, it wasn't so much about me like going back and giving it another chance as it was just seeing it now with more context.
Right.
And I think I fall close to you, Zach. I think it's, I think it's oppressive. I don't think it needs to be as long as it is. And there's a lot of the writing is just completely like over the top and unnecessary. But
The oppressiveness is like the point, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
exactly,
you know?
exactly, yeah. And so not every movie is supposed to be like a jokey MCU improv fest.
Right.
But in the case of this, there were just some moments where I was wondering like, I'm ready for this to be over. That being said, there are certain scenes I really like, and I do think that Michael's physical presence is well done. This is actually Tyler Mane, the actor who played Sabretooth in X-Men.
That's crazy.
Yeah, professional wrestler.
A lot of my criticisms of this always kind of boiled down to like the redneck shit.
Yeah, it's just you could cut that and start at the asylum.
Well, here's the thing. That's his like aesthetic.
It is.
It's a lot of like grungy kind of
Everyone's got long hair.
Just aimless like burnouts in his movies, and that's not like a bad thing.
Played by his wife.
Everyone, right? His wife is in every single one of his movies.
Is she the mom in this one?
Sherry
bet she
Moon.
is.
Sherry Moon, yeah, she's pretty. We'll cut that.
Rob Zombie's gonna hear it and be like, "Thanks."
Oh, thanks. Pretty nice. And that kind of boils down to me not liking the aesthetic, which is kind of pointless, like as a critic, because it's his aesthetic. Like, who am I to say like your aesthetic sucks? It's just what he does. So you can't say an aesthetic sucks.
Yeah.
So ultimately, me saying I wish there was less redneck shit, it's not my movie. It was his remake, and he was given carte blanche. So. I mean, it is what it is. It's full of Cletuses and what's another redneck name?
Bobby
Diggins and yeah.
I was reading actually.
Cletuses.
Carpenter apparently told him to make it his own.
And then Zombie lied about that. They were doing some documentary where Zombie said that I was on the phone with John Carpenter. He was very cold to me. And then Carpenter years later was doing like a talk at USC where he was like, I don't know why Rob Zombie lied about me. I was never cold to him. I told him to make it his own. So they have like a little unspoken feud.
That sucks. Go ahead, Wes.
Super random.
I don't know. I have a completely different.
Well, this was your suggestion.
This was
You-
This was so.
yours.
I'll just to peel back the curtain a little bit. I've been planning this for weeks because I wanted to torment Dan.
I'm being really negative, but there's stuff I think is great.
No, but I know Dan didn't like this movie, and I know I like this movie, but I hadn't seen it since I was a kid.
Right,
And it too was my first exposure to Michael Myers. I like this movie. I don't know if I can say this movie. I think this movie shows a director that has the most directorial skill since Carpenter. I think a lot of the Halloween movies, and no shade to those guys, I think Halloween 2 is good, but I think a lot of those guys are either trying to play Carpenter's B-sides or trying to in some way expound on the mythology in some way. And I think Rob Zombie throws everything out and goes, I'm going to make a Universal monster movie that's also a family tragedy. And I'm going to make it aggressive and mean-spirited.
Yeah.
And I'm going to punch you in the face with it.
Those things kind of work.
Yeah, and I think
mean-spiritedness.
and I think when he there are parts like when he tries to, the second half is him just remaking Halloween, and when he sticks too close to Carpenter, it doesn't work. Like the moments where it's wide frames and he's going down with Laurie and her friends, that doesn't work because you're not John Carpenter. But there are moments where he goes in and turns it inside
and also
out.
recreating that like white picket Americana doesn't really work when you've created such a grungy world.
So that stuff doesn't work for me, but I think the moments where you have the final act where it's actually going past where the Carpenter movie does, where like Michael kidnaps Laurie and brings her to the cellar and like hands her the picture and gets on his knees.
When he's doing his own thing, it's more
I think it's
powerful.
brilliant stuff, and I think he's one of the only directors to go, Michael is not a person. He's not post-human, as you guys said. He's not post-human in my version. He's a kid.
Well, for me, he's just supposed to be the boogeyman, and the boogeyman doesn't die. The boogeyman is elemental.
And even though I prefer that take on Michael,
he's doing his own
I
thing.
love the idea that Michael is a stunted kid who needs his sister, and once he gets his sister, can like the alternate ending, which is now the ending for me.
The alternate ending, it
just-
really pisses me off that that's not what they
Thematically, it ties everything up.
What is
Yeah.
the alternate?
The alternate ending is
Oh, you should have watched
is
it, man. It
the
was
alternate
really good.
ending is Loomis goes up to Michael. Michael has Laurie in like a headlock.
Yeah.
Loomis is like, "Give her to me. I'm so sorry I failed you."
It's not her fault. It's
not,
my fault.
Yeah, it's
I
my fault.
failed
Which
you.
ties it up because
Yeah.
in this version of Loomis feels a camaraderie.
The
to
Malcolm
Michael.
McDowell Lewis is
Is
Loomis
amazing.
is great.
So
He's great.
he says it's not her fault, it's my fault. Michael releases his sister. She runs past the cops, and he drops his knife, and the cops open fire on Michael.
they
Now,
gun him down,
did he start to like walk forward? And is
I
that
think he
why
just
they
wanted to
blasted
go
him?
with them.
Oh, what an
I think he
idiot.
wanted to
which
go
is
with them.
which is why I think this movie is.
Michael, you couldn't do that.
It's,
Well, he's a stunted.
well, but that's why I think this movie is so sweet, and it seems like such a weird thing
But
to say.
I can't acknowledge that ending like
I know.
in my rating because that's
I know.
not the ending.
I
The
know.
ending is him with
The-
a piece of plank of
It's
wood
terrible.
bashing.
It's
Yeah,
terrible.
it is a
It's
terrible ending. It's
But
actually bad.
it's I think
And it was to give Laurie more agency in the story, have her shoot him in the head. But like, okay,
But-
whatever.
and
That's
then-
that's so
and then it ends with her screaming.
less effective. Yeah.
But also, it's so frustrating to me because I know he said these are the only movies he's ever made that had the Weinsteins breathing down his neck.
Right.
So there are a lot of changes I'm sure that they told him to make.
He said it was his idea to change it. But
That's weird.
Well, we know that Harvey Weinstein was manipulative and evil.
But my issue is that the original ending works so well because that's the movie this is.
Yeah.
Michael is a human being.
Right.
He's not. He's
who's still able to carry tombstones
of
on
course,
his own
of
and
course.
do all
He's
the
a song guy.
supernatural
He's
shit.
Frankenstein. I mean, that's the version Rob Zombie has made. Michael is Frankenstein in his version. And I love.
He can push cars over in the second one.
Of course.
Yeah.
The second one, we could talk about it another time. Is more polarizing than this
Yeah,
one because there are people that love the second one.
Yeah,
That-
I hated the second one so much when it came out that it just made me hate like this one more.
That's fair.
And I think this one I may have been lukewarm on. Who's
That's
to
fair.
say?
That's
But
fair.
that second one is like insultingly like just kind of stupid.
You brought up. I was going to ask because I know Malcolm McDowell is another one of your favorite
Yeah,
actors.
he's great.
Do you feel he does? They give Loomis more to do in this.
That's who I would have gone with probably for Loomis
He was really
if I
good.
had done this in 2007.
Yeah, I
I would
agree.
have gone with Malcolm because he has that presence. I mean, you know, he's not even really trying to do Donald Pleasance. He's totally doing his own
Yeah,
thing.
his own
this
thing.
is kind of like a more like laid back, empathetic Loomis who
Yes.
kind of is forced into the Crazy Ralph role.
Right.
towards the
I mean,
end, 'cause
with-
he, out of necessity.
Yeah, I think with Donald Pleasance's version,
He was Crazy Ralph all the time.
right?
Probably outside of
you didn't ever
Michael
really
escaping.
understand whether or not he had ever cared for Michael
Right.
and what their relationship had been. And while I don't need,
I spent 8 years trying to reach him.
he does say that. You're right. Fair. I retract that statement. But I didn't necessarily need this Loomis writing a book and going on a tour
love
about.
that.
I love
actually- I
that.
actually
I love
love
that he's
that,
a,
yeah.
I love that he's a prick. Like they really
No,
go.
he sees
exploited
an
him.
opening to exploit him. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and I don't know. I
A flawed Loomis is
it's
that's very
it's
cool.
part of why this movie works for me is because it goes, though the Carpenter movie doesn't really have characters. It has people that the audience can literally slot themselves into,
Right.
To go, oh my god, I'd be horrified if I was in that place. The zombie movie goes, if these are real people, they're all horrible people.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
And that's an interesting way to go about it. It doesn't always work.
Character he's ever written.
Yeah, well,
He's
you
never
know.
written the whole.
But I
same
love.
character.
I love the way he reinvents the opening of Halloween, like the perfect
Sure,
oneer
yeah.
where Michael is going and kills his sister. The way that he reinvents it for himself. I think, other than him putting on the Michael Myers mask as a child, which is fucking stupid. but
Not scary, by the way, because
It's a small child.
Huge. It's out here on his head.
Massive.
Is the point of that to be scary, or is it just that he likes to?
I
Because
think
he
it's
says
supposed to
he
be
says
scary.
when
He's a real artist in this
He
one.
says in the asylum. He says when he's in the asylum, I didn't do that. And when he puts on these masks, we can see that he's kind of taking on another persona. So maybe putting on that mask.
But he
is
swapped
what
masks.
Gave him the
Oh,
him
the persona to kill his sister
strength to kill his
specifically.
sister, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Here's what I think. One of
That's
the things
my
I wanted
reading,
to.
at least.
One of the things I wanted to ask y'all about, specifically with this movie, is how this movie tries to bring up like nature versus nurture in a way that the other Halloween movies maybe haven't necessarily. Like this movie, I mean, Loomis still says like he's the perfect mixture of internal, external factors, but we wouldn't have those first 25 minutes of him in his redneck home, homophobia, transphobia, all that stuff, bestiality, incest. Like if it wasn't supposed to, if it wasn't supposed to establish that like that's part of why he's so crazy. So, or not crazy. Let me be sympathetic.
We
but
know
you know
that
what
he's
I mean.
killing animals and stuff,
Right.
but I
Right.
think that is a product of the family. It's weird because I don't think there's like a force of nature element at all, and yet he's like still getting up after being
Unkillable,
shot
yeah.
by a desert eagle 3 times.
Yeah,
And
that's weird.
he's still lifting tombstones and carrying them around. and, like,
That's the weird part of it is that he doesn't really. He wants Michael to be the Michael of the
he
Carpenter.
still wants
and
to do the
also-
classic Carpenter stuff,
Yeah.
and you didn't really
And
introduce. It's not the same. Michael.
It's not. No, it's not. It's actually. It feels like a different character.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the way he lumbers around, the way he like ducks his head under.
Well, the Michael of
thing.
the original is like a cinematic device that works sheerly out of.
He's like a black
scarcity.
hole. He's a black hole.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
He's
he's,
very-
he's supposed to be a ghost.
He's very agile too. The way that he crawls up on the car at the
love
beginning
it.
of
Yeah.
the movie.
He does that in Kills, which is so weird. 'cause
Which
the
is-
one- the
He's
one
an
in
old
Kills is
man!
Very stocky
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like.
He's an
Having him
old
crawl in
man.
the
How
car
is
again
he
is weird.
doing this?
That doesn't make sense.
When he takes off his mask, we see the side of his face. You're like, this guy
This
is
guy- he's
old.
walking
Well, keep
after
in mind
Judy
it's the
Greer.
Carpenter one,
not-
so,
not
so
to-
it's not like a guy.
Not to be ageist, but you know, I have family members that are around the age Michael is supposed to be, and my grandpa would fuck up his
When
bag.
they were 23, because could they get shot 6 times and fall off a roof? And
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
he was
bounce back
he's
from it.
Caribbean.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I was rapping with Zach about before we came to record, we were just talking about some of the kills in the movie, and
Rob Zombies.
yeah, and zombies, and the Trejo death is
it's
the
heartbreaking.
most
Forever.
extended, and I feel like maybe it's because like our Trejo and zombie friends in real
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
That seems like hey, you want to
They took the Spy Kids.
you want to have a
back.
long death?
He's in 3 from Hell.
I think they do that to establish like how psychotic Michael is, right? Like it doesn't matter that this dude has been nice to him for 15 years.
Michael, ain't we been friends this whole
makes
time?
you
Yeah,
die the
I was a
worst.
friend.
I
to
was
you,
always
Michael.
good to you, Mikey.
Yeah,
That was so
Mikey.
sad, man.
And he's
Dropped the
drowning
PTO.
him.
Sad.
I guess that was like at first I thought, okay, he's drowning him to like that's Michael's version of a peaceful death. Then he
No,
drops a
drops the
He's really rejecting his humanity. I
Yeah.
think. I think
Yeah.
he's kind of pleading for some kind of humanity from Michael.
Michael
and
doesn't
Michael
have
letting that end like angers him because this is the outlet I've needed for so long. I just gotta destroy.
Dan,
everything on my path.
you're giving such a good read on this
you
movie.
love
which
this movie.
sucks because like I hate so much of it.
Dan, but
I really do
but
hate.
maybe-
I hate huge chunks of this movie.
Maybe the interpretation of Michael Myers is more interesting to you than the rest of the movie. around.
but the interpretation.
But I feel unfair saying why is there so much redneck shit, and that was a nitpick I had with it for a long time because I know that's just his aesthetic.
But it's interesting though, Dan, because I think I read a review from Cam Collins from I think he's at The Ringer or at Vanity Fair, and he was like, "This is the first movie where the director loves Michael Myers. Like he has made Michael Myers the protagonist of his movie. The way he shoots Michael is loving.
Right.
The way he takes care to lower the camera with Michael when he goes down. It's
Everything
like
Michael does is reactionary.
everything. It's the first time where a director has made Michael a character that he is invested in, which is why it's so heartbreaking when he tries to put that olive branch out to Lori and she rejects it.
sad as
And you're so
shit.
sad because you're like, he's this whole movie. That's the
Yeah.
only person he cares about.
He's just
You're the only one that I love. To quote
Exactly.
Brick.
Do you think that
Michael, you're my best friend.
do you think that Michael was surrendering himself to Lori to kill him, or was he?
No, I think
I
he
think
just.
that's
I think
his
he just.
thing.
I think
He
he just
wanted-
wanted her to get with you because she doesn't figure that out until the second movie.
Yeah.
When Loomis
right.
publishes another book, and
yeah.
then she finds out in the other book that she's Michael's sister.
And then
Starts
she
seeing
allies,
her
and then she
ghost,
allies
her
with him.
mom's
Kind of.
ghost.
Wait. The second
She-
zombie movie?
In,
Yes.
in the
Zombie
first,
movie,
in
yeah.
this one, he's pointing at the photograph and stuff, but it doesn't really.
Clicks
She
for her,
doesn't
right. She
know
doesn't
what
know
he
what he's
wants.
talking about,
She
yeah.
finds out in the second one when Loomis publishes another
Isn't he
book.
dead?
Loomis?
Didn't he crush his skull in?
No.
I think he
survived
just well because there was a need
because
for a
of the
sequel,
sequel,
but I
right.
think when they were making this one, I think Zombie
Yeah.
decides definitively in both endings, Michael dies and Loomis dies.
Yes.
Right.
But when you need a sequel, you just say, oh,
And Zombie
no, he
didn't want to
just got
do.
kinda hurt.
Yeah.
And Zombie didn't want to do 2, and then they tried to make him do
Right.
3, and they made a treatment concurrently.
Three was after he left, it was
Yes.
going to go to the guy who did Friday the 13th
Yes.
parts 2 and 3, and it was going to be in 3D.
Yes,
Well,
and
it was-
you know they were writing that treatment. This is how sneaky the Weinsteins are. They
believe
they
it.
were writing the treatment after Zombie had said no, I don't want to do a third one for a third one to give to another director.
If you need any evidence about the Weinstein's bad business decisions, just watch Parasite, because that movie almost didn't get made. Oh, actually, Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer almost didn't get made
also,
because of
the
Harvey
Miyazaki movies they almost rejected.
Yeah,
And
They
also
they
all
what
that,
they're
you
talking
know,
about.
being a serial rapist and stuff.
That,
Grant
yes.
Watson from Fiction Magazine said, "This is a flawed but interesting work from a flawed and interesting filmmaker."
All right.
I like that.
And that
good
kind of stood
summation.
out to me, because I guess I agree with it. There's big chunks that I just don't agree with, and that's kind of because I'm a Carpenter fanboy. But when I turn off that
Well, you're
part,
a purist.
when I turn off that part of my brain, I like the movie a lot more.
I think you have to turn. I don't think it works if you try to square it with Carpenter.
Yeah.
If you try to go in
Not
your
at
head-
all.
If you go in your
because
head,
it totally pales in comparison.
it pales, but it's the reason I love it so much is because it's like a really enterprising film student loves Halloween.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to do my own version of it as my thesis.
And overwrote it.
And but just took a swing at it.
Yeah.
And they let him take a swing at it. And no one else, I don't think, has taken a swing like that.
The Akkads are still very proud of this movie. I mean, it was the first one that Mustafa's son did.
I mean, look how in depth we're talking about a movie that we know is flawed here,
Yeah.
and look how little we talked about the Gordon Green movie. Like, I think I don't think about the Gordon Green movies. All respect to those people at all.
Weird.
Once I leave,
It's weird because there's a few parts of 2018 that I think are brilliant. I think the opening of that movie is fucking brilliant. I hate the opening of Zombies. I think the whole confrontation with Laurie at the end where she's turning the tables on him, he looks over the balcony and she's gone. That's pretty great. The only thing is, Kills really cheapens that movie for me.
Yeah.
Like, I can't really think about 2018 Halloween without thinking about Kills, which is a movie I think is bullshit. So it drags it down.
well, I watched Halloween 2018 with my brother a couple years ago, and then I watched it again yesterday, and I was like, I've completely forgotten large portions of this movie because they just don't stick in my brain. Like, I remember the final act. I remember all the Laurie dinner stuff where she goes and has
I love
dinner
when she is downing the wine and she's an alcoholic
and I
they
think
shame her and stuff.
something that we
great
haven't
scene.
said at all, but I think is worth saying is Jamie Lee Curtis is universally great in every
She's
single
amazing.
Halloween movie. Like
Scout Taylor Compton's kind of bad.
I don't know if she's bad. I think the teenage dialogue that they give her is
sure.
incorrect.
What are we talking
Who does she play?
Is
It's
this
like
the
a-
Laurie-
exactly.
She's
Exactly.
She's
Zombie?
remake Laurie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think when she's
That's all this beatnik dialogue though is what he's into.
I think the issue is that once we get into the horror stuff of her discovering her dead friends, she starts to cook.
Yeah.
But I think that's such a
Because she's
small
crying and
that's such a
squealing and
small
stuff,
sliver of the movie that the other stuff I'm like, I don't.
It's,
whatever.
she's not nearly as interesting as Jamie Lee Curtis was.
She's not.
I don't know if I always have, because I had to like get the energy to watch the 2007
Because it's
one
punishing.
again.
It's a
Yes,
punishing
it
movie.
is.
Punishing. It's so weird. Like, I remember seeing Uncut Gems and thinking this is like the breakfast table scene in Rob Zombie's Halloween when they're all screaming over one another in a you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
They kind of have that same overwhelming effect.
But Uncut Gems is like a warm hug for me.
You're weird.
No, well, I kind of agree. I feel that way about Good Time.
Yeah,
Good
it's a
Time's
warm
a
hug.
comfort movie.
It's a warm hug from neurotic people. You want to rate this thing?
Yeah, because we're at time. Zach, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'll give this. Oh fuck me! Wait, this is the actual rating, right? Jesus God, I'm
This
never
always
prepared.
gets you, Zach.
I'm never prepared for anything we do on this show. I'll give this a embalm. I think that's. I think it was better than I expected, and I think it is definitely worth a watch in comparison to Carpenter's. But that's pretty much all it did for me. But I don't think it's okay.
Yeah.
You want to go?
And now I'll close this out. So one of y'all go first.
I grew up hating this movie, and I hated the aesthetic, which I now realize is silly because
It's not silly. It's your
aesthetic
opinion.
is an aesthetic. It's an artist, taking a shot in the dark. So good for him. He likes his rednecks. It's
Redneck action figures.
It's still is definitely punishing, like
Yeah,
you said, to
definitely
sit through. The stuff I like gets drowned out almost immediately by like a weird redneck rape scene that doesn't
I
need
hate
to
that.
be in a remake
I
of
hate that.
doesn't
Yeah.
need to be in a remake of Halloween. But then there's stuff like his casting, like Ken Foray from Dawn of the Dead. It makes a cameo, and Danielle Harris from Halloween's 4 and 5 make a cameo. Brad Dourif.
No, she's
who plays,
more than a cameo. She's Anne
Oh
Beckett.
yeah, you're right. She's not in the movie that much.
No,
but
she is in the
does-
second one though.
Yeah, she is, and so is Brad Dourif, who plays Chucky, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of love behind it.
Yeah.
And I can really appreciate that. I think maybe it's like neck and neck with 2018 if I'm not thinking about Halloween Kills, you know.
Yeah.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
So
So
that's your-
2018 because of like fan service and expanding upon that original movie, and 2007 just because it's not what I was expecting at all, and it's an artist trying something new. So probably Embalm or Reanimate.
Interesting.
Maybe Reanimate is what I'm gonna go with.
I didn't see
Yeah,
that
look
coming.
at that.
Wes?
It's a Reanimate for me. I think I've been giving out too many Reanimates.
But that just means like you should watch it.
I think it's worth watching. I think it's been getting on critical.
It has a reevaluation.
Reevaluation. I think honestly because of the
I see think pieces every year.
I think it's because of the
fucking-
Trump presidency reassessing that part of America. No, I think that's part of it. We're looking at low income white people and saying how did this happen? and I think but I think it's actually very sensitive to those folks, and I think it's a pretty effective movie. It's very punishing. I'm not going to cut on Halloween 2007 to relax. But if I want a challenging experience of a movie that's completely different from what it's aping, I wish more filmmakers would just take a swing.
Yeah,
I feel like remakes are so boring.
That's why I
because no
really
one takes
wanted
a
the
swing.
Super Dark Times guys their pitch to get
Dude,
going. That would've
just
been
take a
great.
swing, man.
Yeah.
Like so many of the movies around this, the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare, are just them trying to do the original. I could just watch the original, so it's a remake for me.
Yeah, I was leaning towards Embalm, but maybe it is a Reanimation for me. I think maybe
You're alone, Zach.
Am I the one that rated this the lowest?
if only because of the way that it tries to empathize with Michael, which like
Fine.
is interesting enough
Fine.
for a remake, right? Because I think a remake doesn't have to be shot for shot, unless that's what you're doing.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, and there are a lot of
In-
shots
in
that
this
he
movie.
picks up from. But I think like, you know, if you want to take, like Wes said, if you want to take a swing at something that is paying some deference, but also taking it in a different enough direction that it can stand on its own, I think that's admirable.
Yeah.
So yeah, like a low Reanimate. I don't think most of it is necessarily worth watching, but I feel like the stuff about Michael Myers and Laurie specifically is really cool, and Loomis, like that whole triage there is really great. So
Incredible.
Stuff that I don't like doesn't necessarily mean it's like because I get why the screaming rednecks are there. Like it makes sense for the
course,
story
right.
he's telling. I just don't like it.
right,
Right.
yeah, and it's important to know that distinction.
But it's not
This is
my
amazing.
place to remove it from his movie. It's his movie.
Well, this was a lot of fun, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
Is it
We
a
have
wrap?
safe Halloween.
Yeah.
Check your candy.
Yeah,
Yes,
check your candy.
always check your candy.
Look over your shoulder.
And remember, everyone's entitled to one good scare. Huh?
Hey,
Hey,
nice.
that
Good
was
one.
good. That
Come
was
on.
very good.
Love you.
Love you.
See you soon.